Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Leader Series AI Agents. I'm Anmol Malhotra, and with me is my friend and colleague Karan Gupta.
Hey Anmol, hi listeners. Today we have a very good episode. Today we are diving into a very powerful enabler for AI at scale, something called as Model Context Protocol or MCP.
Awesome, Karan. Before we dive into MCP, why don't we remind our users who have been with us from our previous videos about AI innovation at Grassroots and eventually about MCP in the same context?
Absolutely, Anmol. The real power of AI is not really in enterprise use case capability creation. It's not about that. It's also about enabling employees everywhere in your firm to be able to create AI use cases, to build AI agents, to solve localized problems.
So, do you mean like a finance analyst building an agent to auto flag risky payments, or like a sales manager at an auto company tracking competitor updates? Is that what we are thinking?
Exactly, and more. But to do this at scale, like across functions, across different teams, enterprises really need to make things like integration, security, access simple and scalable, and which doesn't come without setting up some standards, setting up some protocols in place.
Amazing. Just to remind our users, the last time we've already talked about people and process, and in the same framework, what we are talking about today is around integration, right, Karan? That's what we are spotlighting.
Yes, and more. Before we get into integration, I would like to highlight to our viewers that we have already spoken a lot about these six dimensions, which are very important for grassroots innovation. It's not just about building one tech capability, it's about bringing a lot of these things together. And again, like we spoke in the previous episode, it's not about a big bang approach. It's very iterative, start small and build towards your future. So now if we talk about why integration is very important, right? Agents need access to systems. They need access to data. Like think about CRMs, spreadsheets, APIs, databases. Most of that data is not going to be available within the AI module or within the agent itself. So that is where integration is really, really important.
I totally agree, Karan. I feel like without good integration, even the best agent you can build is literally flying out blind in the world.
Bingo and more. And that is where the innovation at grassroots, if you think about it, it hits the wall, right? Because grassroots level, there are a lot of agents that are being developed. They keep on developing different use cases, but none of them are usually reusable. So just to put it into context, think about a real estate company, right? Like we spoke about in our previous video, they are building a property listing agent. Different departments or lines of businesses within a real estate company would build the agents in different manner, right? Which is solving
Yeah,
almost the same purpose. Now, how do you bring it all together is the goal.
I totally agree with that, Karan. Before we think about how do we bring it together, I think where a lot of companies and peers are facing one of the many challenges which come in as we move towards the standardization. Let's hit on like the top two or three, which you've seen in your experience with our clients as well, in when they plug AI agents into the real systems.
That's a really good question, Anmol, because a lot of companies are already facing these issues as they are building these AI agents. The first one that comes to my mind is integration complexity. This is super important. Not all the companies on this earth have top-notch systems or latest SaaS tools all the time. A lot of them are operating in the space where they have legacy systems, they have outdated APIs, they have very siloed tooling, which makes it very difficult to connect even standard systems, not just talk about agents, right? So integration complexity is a key challenge. It's very difficult to make your AI agents work if you're not able to communicate appropriately with your legacy systems. So the second aspect that I'll talk about is tech debt, right? uh, Everyone builds systems agents in their own ways, right? People are building more and more agents. It's becoming easier to code these days, so there is a lot of tech debt just because of that fact. And the other thing is, like we spoke about integration complexity, everyone building their own set of agents. Like in that real estate example, let's say a property listing related agent, everyone builds their own. it introduces so much of tech debt into the system. The third aspect that I'll talk about is security and compliance. AI agents rely completely on data to make their inferences, right? They cannot operate on their own. They rely on very proprietary data. In the case of real estate example, think about the property listing agent. It needs access to Zillow or to other tools to be able to access property listing data, which is very proprietary in nature. Hence, security, being able to control access to the right data is very critical and is getting challenging for the AI agents as everyone is implementing agents in their own ways.
I totally agree with that, Karan. So just spending like 30 seconds here just to test my understanding. Tech debt is how I would think if like everyone in their own verticals is just vibe coding their way through different types of agents and they are literally duplicating the same thing again and again. Is that how it would be? And like second question would be if I'm thinking about security and compliance here, in that case, if we are accessing something like Zillow or MLS, where you're paying per API call or access, so having a common repository or common agent so that you can control those costs is where this would come into. Am I thinking on the right lines?
You are thinking on the perfect line. And I think I'll just elaborate a little bit, Anmol, what you said, right? The vibe coding aspect. These days, with vibe coding, people are developing software left and right using Gen AI tools. And that organically is resulting into bloated code, right? Bloated code base. And what that means is, so you have two aspects from which you're creating tech debt. One is the bloated code base itself, and the fact that different teams are creating the same version or slightly different version of the agent across enterprises. So that's
Yeah,
how I see two of those things playing a role when it comes to tech debt. And when you spoke about security and compliance, that's an amazing point which you brought up, which is the pay per use cost. Some of this
yeah.
proprietary data is not free, right? And again, with vibe coding expanding, a lot of tools are coming up, a lot of sites are being developed. What that means is that you can just blatantly access tons of data, tons of proprietary data through these agents. And that could incur thousands of dollars of cost because this data is not free.
I totally agree. No business wants their internal AI going rogue. So, Karan, next step for us. We've discussed all the challenges which are coming up, but honestly, all of those are opportunities too. Things for us to like correct so that we can have that ideal agent framework in our mind. So, how does MCP help with all of this? Where does MCP come into the picture?
So, Anmol, think of MCP more like a universal adapter for AI agents or AI models per se, right? Today, if you think about it, everyone is operating in their own ways. They are connecting different agents. People are building agents across enterprises, but they are not talking to each other in the same language. Hence, what Anthropic did later last year, towards I think December of 20, which is simply a common communication method for two agents to talk to each other, right? It's like a JSON RPC style. Think of this more like the USB protocol.
So, if I'm abstracting this even further, it's not building a custom bridge every time, but having like a same highway where everyone can plug into the same stream of information flowing through.
Exactly. I think you got it right. So think about it in this way. One is it standardizes the integration, which is to your example, a common highway for different clients to be able to talk to an agent, right? That's one. It eliminates the n cross integration points. And what that really means is today, taking that real estate example, the property listing agent is being developed, let's say, 5 times within the same company and maybe 50 times across different companies. What if there could be one property listing agent that could be accessed by tons of clients within the same company, but more so across companies as well? That eliminates the need for creating all of these integration points, right? And then MCP also enhances the security standards, which is again establishing common methods like OAuth, API keys to ensure that everybody accesses the right agent. If I don't have access to the property listing agent, I will not be able to talk to it. The agent would not respond to me. So standardizing one, the security, but also ensuring that every time you access an agent, it goes through a secured protocol is what MCP is set for.
I totally agree. And in the same spirit, Karan, just testing my understanding with you again. I've read in my MBA about like a hub and spoke model with airlines. Is that what I should think about when I'm thinking about like N slash integration points, right? And on the security part, I feel like if we are vibe coding our way through it, it's like DIY security through all of it. So just having a standardized protocol is gonna save us a ton of development effort and ton of like regulatory things which we need to take care of as well, right?
That is definitely true. Yes, sir.
Perfect. With all of those things in mind, Karan, why don't we jump into the weeds here? What, according to you, are like the main building blocks of MCP and how does it help us?
Yes. So this is, I think, the core of it, right? So now if you think about the MCP protocol, it's composed of three main things. First is the host. Host, think of it as a collection of clients. Client is the main AI application. So think about your chatbot, your automation scripts, your recommendation engine. This is the key use case that you're trying to develop. We'll get into it a little bit further as well, but think about one or more clients, and then they're talking to one or more servers. Each server here is an agent, right? Or an AI agent per se. This is where the root of the logic sits in. This is the agent itself. Now, this agent will have capabilities to access certain specific to your enterprise, not even available online, would have access to external data sources via web APIs. So just putting it into a little bit of context, the local data source could be, let's say your agent sits on a server which has a shared drive. And in that shared drive, you have some proprietary data that you want the agent to be able to read through, some proprietary PDFs, right?
Mhm.
When it comes to open data, it could be like the MLS data in case of the real estate example, right? So all of these different agents are being able to access different data sources and make inferences. And the client, which is your AI app, is able to talk to one or more agents at a point in time. And if you see, because of this N cross N connectivity between the client and the agent itself, that is, Anmol, to your point, like a hub and spoke kind of model, where
Mhm.
one client, in this case, let's say a real estate chatbot AI agent or AI application, is able to talk to an MLS server agent, it is able to talk to a Zillow agent, it is able to talk to a Redfin agent, all of those MCP servers, it's able to connect to all of them and give a final result to the user which sits on the host.
Understood. So, as you said, if I have like a Salesforce server, I have an MLS server, they can be reused by all the different applications which my team is imagining without duplicating any sort of like code for that infrastructure and having it standardized. So, moving further, if we are changing models or if we are changing like any other parts of the system, these remain in place as our like base data foundations, if I were to say, like what we talked about last time.
That is correct. And if you think about it, Anmol, like companies like Salesforce, etc., all of those companies, what they're doing is they're building these servers per se and exposing them as publicly available endpoints. So that way is, if within my company I need to access my Salesforce data, I can use the Salesforce server, MCP server, which is the Salesforce agent itself. And I can ask it questions like, hey, tell me about my CRM, like what are my top 10 customers right now in the pipeline, etc. So all of these companies are building and exposing those agents with the clear idea that you can reuse them across different use cases, which is your MCP clients per se.
Amazing, Karan. I think this was a good primer for us to understand what MCP is and what are the different building blocks of MCP and different companies, how they are coming into the picture when we look at it from like a SaaS perspective as well. Why don't you give a sneak peek to our users of what to expect in our next episode here too?
That is going to be even more interesting because what we'll do is, this is very conceptual diagram of MCP. We will take it further and build an actual real estate example to show you how MCP works in reality. And then what we will show you is a user journey of an example from the real estate use case as well, as to how different parts of this MCP architecture play a role. Now, the key idea of there over there is we want to make sure you are able to understand how to even implement and use MCP in your real life while you're working either in your company or you're trying to develop your own AI first product.
Perfect. Looking forward to it. And for viewers, if you like this content, please like, share, and subscribe. And we'll be back soon with our next episode.